off this countdown, we have Alexei Miller's house. Alexei Miller is the chairman of Russia's largest company and world's biggest natural gas producer. If you try and look up his house on Google Maps, well, good luck. It is completely blurred out. In fact, we don't even have an image of it. And that's due to privacy reasons and safety concerns. I mean, this guy isn't everyone's biggest fan. Being that wealthy and big of a public figure, you don't know who's going to come for you. Now, I mentioned this before, but prisons are blurred out to prevent people or prisoners from breaking in or out of the facility. Google Earth literally shows you the entire layout of the place. So Miller probably has similar reasoning as to why he wants this place blurred. Someone could easily use Google Earth to figure out the best way to break into this dude's house. It would also show if he has cameras around his premise and where. So yeah, it's a little revealing. In our 9th spot today, we have KFC. Now, this one is a little funny. So you know how Google Maps automatically censors out any person's face that they end up capturing? Well, they ended up censoring every single KFC. And that's because of Colonel Sanders' face. Google's system detected it as a real person, well, it is a real person, and it got blurred. So the Colonel's face is censored on all KFC buildings and signs. In our 8th spot, we have the Army Logistics Command Headquarters. Located in Taiwan, the Army Logistics Command Headquarters building is one of various military sites across Taiwan that has been blurred out on Google. And I'm sure you all can understand why. They do so for security reasons. Google often blurs out military bases or buildings if they are considered important to a country's security. Like I said, this is just one of the many military buildings blurred out by the Taiwan government and by Google. But in 2019, an update was done by Google and it resulted in a number of these bases being revealed to the public accidentally. The blurring was accidentally removed and people could see the buildings from all sorts of angles. People saw the military bases layout, building structures, and the locations of missile launchers. Good job, Google. But don't worry, now it's fixed. In our 7th spot, we have Tontaco National Park, Chile. Now, why would a national park be censored on Google? Literally no one knows. So this is a privately owned nature reserve. Now on Google Maps, you could see it from afar, but as soon as you zoom in closer, it doesn't do anything. It just looks like a green blob. So why would they censor this area? Well, some say it's because of the fact that it's home to several endangered animal species, whereas others believe that this place is home to animals that aren't supposed to exist. Imagine unicorns actually do exist and they're just in this area, or like the Bigfoot. Wild. In our 6th spot, we have the Single Square. In El Hierro, Spain, there is this random square that was censored among the roads and plantations. Now, this site wasn't always censored. It became censored in 2007 when just a blur was added to the square. And many people were wondering why all of a sudden it was censored. Well, some say that's because a helicopter pad was placed there, so it was censored to hide that, whereas others think that there's a missile silo placed there. As of 2013, the censor, I believe, has been removed, and now all there is to see is an arid stretch of land. But what was going on there for 7 years when it was censored? That's my question. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with Oorsprong Park. Located in the Netherlands, this is a mysterious building that, you guessed it, is censored. But what's weird is that this is the only property in a row of houses that is censored. Why is that house alone censored and not all of them? In older images from Google Earth, the building appears to be covered with a white box. Nowadays, if you search it, it's just a pixelated green and brown area. Again, no one knows why this area is blurred. When you check Google Street View, you can see that it's a brick building, but on Google Earth, you see nothing. Now, it could just be that the homeowner wants privacy. Who knows? In our 4th spot, we have North Korea. And of course, North Korea is on this list. I mean, hello, the whole country itself is one big secret. It's no shocker that sections of the country are blurred out. Now, the area that is blurred is along the country's western shore, so people have thought that they are hiding something there. Theory 1 is that that's where they do weapon tests, or that's where they have missiles or other weapons stored. Theory 2 is that that's where they are conducting a secret military project. Very vague, we don't know what the project is. Again, it's North Korea, so we really don't know what they're up to or why that particular area is blurred out. In our 3rd spot, we have Marcoule nuclear site. Located in France, this site was first constructed in 1952. Now, we've done a number of these Google Earth videos, so At this point, you should realize that most nuclear facilities are blurred out, mostly because these nuclear sites were caught doing illegal things with their nuclear waste, like dumping it into the ocean. Now, this one hasn't done that, but in 2011, it was the center of an explosion. One person was killed, 4 were injured, 1 was severely injured. So I mean, I think you can guess as to why an atomic energy site using uranium and plutonium oxides is censored by the French government, especially after that explosion in 2011. In our second spot today, we have Sandy Island, aka the island that exists but it doesn't exist. Now, this one comes with a little backstory. This island was discovered by Captain Cook, yes, Captain Cook, not Hook, during his explorations around Australia in the late 1700s. But now it seemingly disappeared. Back in the 19th century, Sandy Island was noted on a number of maps and nautical charts. It was said to be located in the South Pacific. It was located between Australia and New Caledonia. But it's no longer there. On Google Maps, if you enter the island's coordinates, all you see is a faint outline of what looks like a long, thin island, but there's no landmass in sight. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Mururoa Island. Located in French Polynesia, this island was first used for nuclear testing in 1966 by France. These tests took place until 1996. That's when the French president shut down the facility. Turns out that Greenpeace found these tests were polluting the waters as far as Peru and New Zealand. In fact, many locals in Tahiti have claimed that they have been affected by the radiation from these tests. Nowadays, the island is off limits to visitors and is guarded by French forces, which is probably why half of the island is blurred out on Google Maps. Or it's because they are still doing these nuclear tests. We may never know.
Alright, jumping into our number 10 now, we have the Mariana Trench. This is the deepest point on Earth, located in the Western Pacific. It plummets to an estimated depth of about 10,994 meters. That's just over 36,000 feet. Now, to put that in perspective, that's a little bit less than the height of an average plane flight. So, next time you're in a plane, look out of the window and you'll have a pretty good idea of just how deep the Mariana Trench is. Humans have been down to just above this level a number of times, but remember I said that the depth was estimated. It could go even lower to depths humans have never even seen before. Next up at number 9, we have the far side of the moon. Humans have been to the moon during America's Apollo missions, however, it has always been to the same side of the moon. You see, due to a phenomenon called tidal locking, we only ever see one side of the moon. In fact, we didn't even have a picture of the other side until 1959. The other side isn't too dark to visit, but it would present unique challenges to communication with Earth. Because of that, no human has stepped onto the far side of the moon. However, when we do eventually go back, that will likely change. Who knows? Maybe someone watching this video will be the first person to go there. Send me a picture. Next up at number 8 now, we have Gangkar Puensum. Now, this mountain may not be Everest, but it is a pretty big mountain, standing at almost 25,000 feet. It's the 40th highest mountain in the world, and it's said to be the highest unclimbed mountain. Now, this isn't because it's impossible by any means, it's all political. The mountain is located within Bhutan's borders, and the country is reluctant to let people climb it because of local spiritual beliefs. They don't want their spiritual mountain to become just another kind of tourist hub like Everest. Because of this, nobody has ever been to the top, and it looks like nobody ever will. Alright, at the number 7 spot now, we have the Amazon rainforest. Now, obviously, humans have been here before. A lot of people actually live there, but this place is massive, covering 7 million square kilometers. It's huge, and there are definitely parts where no human has ever stepped before. You just have to look at the probabilities of this. There are new species being constantly discovered there every single year. There are even uncontacted tribes living there. In fact, Brazil, which is home to most of the Amazon, has more uncontacted human tribes in it than any other place in the world. The Amazon is a thick, impenetrable canopy of endless trees that cover an area over half the size of the US. If you're looking to be the first human to step somewhere, the Amazon is a pretty good place to start. Alright, moving on to number 6 now, we have the Namib Desert. This makes the list for the same reason as the Amazon. It's huge and very inaccessible. It's located in southern Namibia. People do live along its fringes, but the desert itself is as empty and hostile as you can imagine. It's thought to be the oldest and least populated desert on the planet. planet, with almost no paved road to get around. With all of this in mind, it's unimaginable to think that humans have walked on every single part of it. It looks beautiful in the pictures, but I wouldn't want to stay there too long. Next up at number 5 now, we have Northeast Siberia. Now when I say the word Russia to you, you guys might think of this, a bustling country of some 144 million people. However, there are parts of Russia that are seriously remote. Northwest Siberia is pretty inhospitable to any life, not just humans. The only reason humans even go there is for the oil buried deep below the permafrost. But for everything else, it's just a wasteland where even plant life struggles to grow. There is definitely frozen ground there that has never been trodden on. Alright, moving on to number 4 now, we have Further Than the Moon. That's what I'm calling this. On April 15th, 1970, the crew of Apollo 13 were slingshotting around the far side of the moon in order to save their failed mission and get back to Earth safely. At one point, they were 265 kilometers, that's about 158 miles, above the lunar surface. This meant they were 400,000 kilometers, or about 250,000 miles away from Earth. That is the furthest that any human has ever been from this planet. This is quite surprising because A, that was almost 50 years ago, and B, that record won't stand forever. With all these planned missions to Mars that will likely happen in your lifetime, it will be kind of weird to think that right now a human has never been past that nearby rock you see in the night sky. Alright, next up at number 3 now, we have Antarctica. Antarctica was the last continent to be discovered and visited by humans and is the least populated, for good reason. Although it's about the same size as the US and Mexico combined, it has a permanent population of just 1,000 people in the winter. That is partly due to its inhospitable nature as one of the coldest places on Earth, but also because of restrictions. Antarctica isn't owned by anyone and is protected by an international treaty. Because of its unique environmental nature, the animals there and its delicate ice shelves, you need a very good reason or connections to go there. If you do, you'll find a wasteland that has reached minus 89 degrees before. That's about minus 126 Fahrenheit. There's definitely areas there where humans have never dared or probably needed to venture to. Moving on to number 2 now, we have the Yucatan cenotes. There's a series of caves in Mexico. Normally, caves aren't a problem for humans. We've been to the bottom of the deepest ones ever found. However, these caves in Mexico have proved extremely difficult to explore. They are a huge network of underwater caverns which even marine life has struggled to get a foothold in. They were formed from collapsed limestone rock, which is still a major risk for humans going there, meaning even the most daring divers have not been to parts of them, never mind the rest of us.
Number 1, Huacachina, Peru. Upon approaching this place, you may think it's a mirage created by the heat of the desert that surrounds it, but I assure you it's real. Huacachina, Peru is literally an oasis in the middle of the desert, equipped with nightclubs, restaurants, hotels to boot. It's about 5 hours away from Lima or 15 minutes away from Ica. Besides being famous as the only oasis in a desert, people come here from all over to sandboard. The oasis formed thanks to an underground current that allowed vegetation like palm trees, carob trees, and eucalyptus to grow. But local lore says that the water formed from the tears of a maiden in Takara who lost her true love, an Inca warrior. Then one night another warrior passed, and fearing being observed, she threw herself into the lake that she had made. She waited there for hours until he passed, and when he finally did, she couldn't leave the lake and had instead transformed into a mermaid. Legend says that every full moon, the woman emerges to cry over her true love once again, filling the lake.
Starting us off at number 10, the Sendagaya Tunnel. It was constructed in 1964 when Tokyo was hosting the Olympics, but don't let its new construction date fool you. It is definitely haunted and you definitely want to steer clear. They built the tunnel over a cemetery, which of course never turns out well, and it's said that many angry and relentless spirits haunt the area to this day. The most witnessed ghost is a long-haired, blood-stained woman who's been known to give drivers a fright by hanging off their cars upside down, inciting numerous accidents over the years. Luckier drivers have reported only seeing strange handprints appearing on their cars out of nowhere, but everyone that drives through gets a bad feeling that someone or something doesn't want them there. Next up at number 9, the Hachioji Cemetery. Unlike many other cemeteries, it's not actually the grounds that are haunted by those buried here, but instead one very specific fixture located on the western side of the grounds. A ghostly woman is said to haunt a phone booth located in the cemetery at night. And as the legend goes, if you dare make a call, she'll appear, terrorizing you until you leave. If you're lucky, she'll just stare at you, but if you catch her in a bad mood, it's said that she will let out a blood-curdling wail that can be heard for miles. Now, luckily in this day and age, not many people need a phone booth, but just in case, I'd steer clear of the cemetery altogether. Next up at number 8, the Round Schoolhouse. Built in 1906 as a school, it ran for about 60 years before it ultimately shut down and has been abandoned ever since. Soon after its doors shut, strange paranormal activity like apparitions, floating lights, strange shapes, and abandoned objects showing up out of nowhere started coming out of the shadows, catching the eye of paranormal enthusiasts all across Japan. But many that went to visit the abandoned lot came back with troubling stories of what they'd heard, and some returned as if they were completely different people, talking incoherently and as if they had lost their minds. Since then, few have dared to try it out, afraid they might be possessed or haunted for life from whatever lies behind the old stone walls. Next up at number 7, the Okutama Ropeway. In Japan, there is a subculture among explorers called Heikyo. Those that practice visit eerie and most importantly abandoned locations, and apparently this ropeway is considered to be one of Tokyo's hotspots. Located atop a hill in the Lake Okutama region lies an old cable car station that first opened in 1962. But then it mysteriously closed after only 5 years of operation in 1966. Though no one knows exactly why it shut down, legend has it that a male and female ghost both haunt the area, and that the owner of the ropeway mysteriously disappeared and has never been seen or heard of since the closure. Over the years, several accidents have taken place here from visitors trying to visit the abandoned lot, and many believe that whoever it is that haunts the ropeway is trying to send a message. Keep away or else things could get much, much worse. Coming in at number 6, the Aoyama Cemetery. It might be beautifully decorated with rows of cherry blossom trees, but don't get too comfortable with the gorgeous scenery, because although it bursts with life in the day, once it gets dark, the true colors of this haunting cemetery come out of the shadows. As the legend goes, a taxi driver was picking up a young girl from the cemetery one night, but after a few minutes when he looked back, she was gone and the seat was completely drenched. Rumor has it that many taxi drivers to this day refuse to pick up anyone from the cemetery at night, in fear that it will be another ghost coming to terrorize them, and even bus drivers have reported the stoplight going off when they are nearby the cemetery at night, even though no one is on board. So if you do want to see the pretty pink trees, just stick to the sunlight and you should be good to go. Next up at number 5, Aokigahara Forest. Since the 1950s, this forest has earned its scary reputation from being the unfortunate and all too often site for many to take their own life. So much so that officials have placed signs at the front of many of the trails urging all that enter to call a helpline if they're thinking of taking their life. But it's not just those that took their own lives that are believed to haunt the grounds. Allegedly, the dark and eerie forest was once used to practice ubasut, an ancient practice of carrying an old woman up to the top of a secluded area and then abandoning her there, leaving her to die. It's said the souls of the women haunt the woods, seeking revenge on those who took their lives from them, and some believe that if you walk into the forest, you will never make it out alive. Coming in at number 4, Suzugomori. Established in 1651, Suzugomori operated as one of the largest execution grounds for 220 years. During this time, it's estimated nearly 100,000 people were killed by the military, most commonly by being beheaded, although they did have some even more gruesome ways to get the job done that drew attention of the town. After the executioner took their big swing, they would let the head of the condemned fall to the ground and leave it there there until it was drained of all its blood. From there, it was washed before being put on display for the whole city to see. Kind of like a sick warning of what could happen to you if you stepped out of line. Today it's littered with Buddhist monuments to try and keep the countless souls at bay, but they are no match for the entities that haunt the grounds. Some say that if you take a picture of the well they used to clean the decapitated heads, that the ghosts will show themselves. Just be careful, as they are also known to scream. Next up at number 3, Okiku's Well. Supposedly haunted by the spirit of Okiku, this well has a tragic tale of how it became haunted. The story says that Okiku was a young servant of the samurai Tessen, and the samurai was madly in love with Okiku, but she did not feel the same way. The samurai did not take kindly to this rejection and framed the young girl for stealing one of his 10 precious golden plates to try and outcast her from her community. He then told her he could make it all go away if she agreed to become his lover. Otherwise, she would be punished. Okiku once again refused his offer, as she did not love him and didn't want to spend any kind of life with a man that would try and frame her as a criminal. Turned down for a second time, the samurai threw Okiku down the well in a fit of rage, where she died from drowning. It's said that at night she can still be heard wailing from the well, crying out the numbers 1 through 9 to torment the samurai before vanishing in her well for another day. Next up at number 2, Orenbuki. Once home to a top secret gold mine run by the Takeda clan, at its height of wealth in the 16th century, the clan decided to employ 55 courtesans for the miners to keep them happily distracted while not on the job. But as the mine began to decline, the area took a dark turn. The clan lost possession of the land in battle, and now, all dried up of gold and with no reason to remain, the Takeda clan decided to flee. But first, they had to do something about the women, as they didn't want the enemies learning of the gold mine and feared the courtesans knew too much from being intimate with the miners. So to solve their problem, a platform was constructed, suspended over the gorge, and all the courtesans were told to come by for a party on the bridge. Unsuspecting of their fate, all the women came to the bridge that night, only for the Takeda clan to slash the ropes holding up the platform, sending all the women plummeting to their death. It's said the wailing women can still be heard from the gorge below, crying out in agony. But men, beware if you visit. Don't stand too close to the edge, as the ghosts are known to seek revenge on men specifically. And last up, in our number 1 spot, Building 2283. Once a part of the housing for the US Air Force in Japan, Building 2283 has since been demolished because of how haunted it was. But despite there being no building, it hasn't stopped the spirits from terrorizing passersby. Legend has it that in the 1970s, an Air Force officer killed his entire family in the house before taking his own life. Then the next family that moved in after immediately felt paranoid, and the father soon went mad and stabbed his entire family. Afraid that there was a malevolent demon in the house possessing families, it became a storage shed, but the haunting didn't end there. Those that walked past heard haunting cries and unsettling laughter, and on one occasion a woman was seen washing her hair in the kitchen sink. Apparently they tried to tear down the building multiple times, but workers that attempted the feat developed migraines, hallucinations, and injuries while on the job. If all that wasn't scary enough, some swear to have witnessed the house glowing before a samurai on a horse is seen trotting through the living room, and no one knows who he is or what he wants.
Number 10, Black Forest in Germany. The Black Forest in Germany is one of the most mysterious places on Earth, and is said to have inspired many tales by the Brothers Grimm, and if you know the originals, then you know it gets pretty dark. It gets its name from a 100-mile stretch of pine trees that are so dense, the sun struggles to reach the forest floor. If you choose to visit, it is recommended that you make sure to spend at least a good few days exploring it. You definitely won't be bored. There are natural hot springs on the northwestern border, which Romans used to take advantage advantage of after long battles. Mark Twain once said that time is easily lost within these woods, saying that, and I quote, "Here you lose track of time in 10 minutes and the world in 20. So if you want to do as the Romans did, be sure to make this an addition to your travel plans, after all this is over. Number 9, Kwangsi Falls. Don't go chasing waterfalls, unless of course it's these ones, because man are they breathtaking. Kwangsi Falls are probably the most beautiful system of waterfalls in the world. Move over, Niagara, we get it, you're really big. The inviting turquoise water pours over limestone platforms and rocks, framed by lush greenery from the surrounding forest. The falls are the stuff dreams are made of, and you may never want to leave. There is also a bear sanctuary nearby that you can visit. Locals recommend visitors try and go as early as possible before the falls get a little crowded. Number 8, the Sea of Stars. This one is actually on my bucket list. I've always wanted to see it and I've always wanted to go, and it's actually inspired something I'm writing in a book. So cute little fun fact. We all know the Maldives to be a stunning retreat for any couple seeking a romantic honeymoon. The Sea of Stars is one such reason people go, and I can imagine before anyone knew the science behind it, it must have been seen as a kind of beautiful magic. Let's be honest, science is magic in so many ways. So yeah, imagine having just had dinner and going for a long walk on the beach only to have beautiful blue stars tickle your toes. Well, not stars exactly, but a specific kind of bioluminescent plankton. Stress caused by the movement of the sea and waves leads the plankton to emit light like fireflies. It's one of the rarest events on Earth and can't really be predicted, but Vadho Island in Ra Atoll is the most well-known island where you can see this, so keep an eye out. Number 7, the Chapel de Saint-Michel d'Aguilé. Not to be confused with Mont Saint-Michel, this is one of the most spectacular chapels ever built. Perhaps not for its ordnance, but mostly because of where they decided to put it. It looks like the architect was in some kind of contest that involved building chapels in impossible places. The rock formation it sits on looks like a needle, hence the name, which translates to Saint Michael on a needle. Though of course there are taller places in the world, this is one of the most mysterious and sacred. It used to be a volcano and rises 279 feet with 268 steps leading to the chapel. Beautiful fresco murals and stained glass await you inside the chapel and is often used as a place of meditation and prayer. The thing that most strikes me about this place is imagining how they would have even constructed it. There's not much room up there for I don't know, an ancient scaffold or something, but apparently the views were worth it, so they figured it out. Kinda like the pyramids. Number 6, the Son Doon Cave, Vietnam. Son Doon is the largest cave in the world and was discovered in 1991 by a man named Ho Con. The cave was created anywhere between 2 to 5 million years ago by the river that runs through it. The ceiling eventually collapsed, which left fantastic skylights. It is more than 200 meters wide, 150 meters high, 9 kilometers long. You could potentially fit an entire city inside. There's even mini forests. Several treks into the cave have given us tremendous insights into the overall mapping of the cave, and the images are spectacular. It looks like a cave you would find in the middle of the earth, that Jules Verne store. Anyways, if you are a passionate splunker, then I highly recommend checking this place out if you can. But bring friends, Number 5, Mount Roraima. This mountain seriously looks like the perfect battleground for an epic duel face-off between gods. At least that's what I pictured. Mount Roraima sits on the border of Venezuela, Guyana, and Brazil. The mountain's semi-flat surface is a result of heavy rainfall all year round. The rain also causes random spectacular waterfalls. Of course, the mountain was known by locals, but Walter Raleigh made his discovery of it in 1596 while he was trying to find the legendary city of El Dorado, but he was unable to climb it. The easiest way up the mountain is by climbing a natural staircase forest trail on the Venezuelan side, but once you get up there, get ready to give your breath away if it wasn't already taken by the trek. The views from the top are absolutely stunning and you feel as if you are floating on a mountain in the sky. Number 4, Lake Hillier, Australia. Pink! It's pink! It's literally a pink lake. Nature got bored of the color blue and was like, make it pink, and so they did. Separated from the Southern Ocean by just a thin strip of sand, Lake Hillier sits in stark contrast to a bright blue ocean surrounding it. It was discovered in 1802 by Matthew Flinders when he led an expedition to the islands. Despite scientific testing, there is no distinct reason as to why the lake is so pink. Even if you pour it in a glass, it will still look pink. It's not just a trick of the light. Studies suggest that due to the saline quality and the presence of a special special kind of microalgae. The algae produces carotenoids, which is a pigment found in carrots, so that could be one reason as to why it's a pink color. It measures 600 meters wide and is a remarkable image to fly above, especially in contrast to the blue ocean and the greenery around. Oh, gorgeous. Apparently it's safe to swim in, but it's incredibly hard to reach, but not impossible. So if you do decide to visit, get ready for a trek. Honestly, all these places, get your mountain boots on. Number 3, Salar de Uyuni. This is actually on my bucket list. It's been on my bucket list since I think I was around 10. Salar is the world's largest salt flat and can even be seen from space. Layers of salt lie between sedimentary rock, and it is estimated that around 10 billion tons of salt is there, but more importantly, lithium. You know, the material that powers smartphones, laptops, and tons more? Yeah. 70% of the world's lithium stores lie within Salar, and an entire industry has been devoted to the extraction. But other than the science, why is this place so magical? Well, on a still, calm day, a thin layer of water transforms the entire flat into the world's largest mirror. Ever wanted to feel like you're floating in the sky without jumping out of a plane? Well, this is the place to be. If you ever tire of such a sight, you can also check out the thermal waters to end your day. Number 2, the Waitomo Glowworm Cave, New Zealand. Honestly, New Zealand should just be on this list as like, you know it exists, but so many otherworldly places exist in New Zealand. No wonder Lord of the Rings and Narnia filmed there. It truly looks like no other place on earth. But the Waitomo Glowworm Cave is something you have to visit at least once in your life. Another one on my list. We talked about the Sea of Stars. This is the Cave of Wonders, filled with bioluminescent glowworms called Arachnocampa luminosa, along with albino ants and giant crickets. It honestly looks like a cave that belongs in James Cameron's Avatar. There are a variety of ways you can explore the caves, either by raft or boat rides. It's definitely on my list.
Alright, finally now at number 1 we have Greenland. Greenland was first reached by the Vikings about 1,000 years ago, but that doesn't mean there aren't huge parts of it untouched by humans. This landmass in the North Atlantic has towns and cities along its southern coast, but the further north you go, the more untouched it becomes. Even as recently as 1999, there were still new, completely untouched islands being discovered. Also, 80% of Greenland is covered in a thick ice cap sheet, over 10,000 feet deep in some parts. It's been that way for 2 to 3 million years, well before modern humans ever existed, meaning no human could have walked on that land even if they wanted to.